Hello, friends. So today I am joined by my husband, Sean, and he has read all of the Wheel of Time books. Many of you know I've only read the first 4, but today we're going to be chatting about episode 4 of the show. Sean, sadly, due to some scheduling issues, was not able to join me for the chat for episodes 1 through 3, so I'll let him give a little recap of his thoughts, and then we'll dive into our thoughts for episode 4. But if you don't care at all what Sean thought of episodes 1 through 3, I'll have a timestamp so you can skip ahead.
Okay, really quickly. Actors. I liked the actors. I liked all of them. Trollocs, I didn't really like how they looked most of the time. Things move very quickly. I mean, I think things have to move quickly. I thought Perrin's made-up wife that died, I personally thought it was kind of weird that he just left town.
Joined
apparently.
the gang.
Like, I didn't dislike Perrin's made-up wife. I thought Matt was way nicer than he is in the books, and I like that actor, and I'm sad he's not coming back. Rand was perfectly moody. I liked that a lot. I liked Nynaeve a lot. I find her kind of annoying in the books, but I thought that what they've done was nice. And maybe she wasn't annoying in the books. Maybe I have evolved as a person. Oh, the sets. I thought they were whatever. I mean, like, I thought, what's the city, the scary
Shadar,
city?
Logan.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I don't think it was great. I didn't think it was terrible. I oddly thought, like, the Two Rivers, the scene when, after the battle, I thought the Two Rivers looked kind of weird. But, you know, they're a little town, but...
And then what was your favorite and least favorite of the episodes?
I think they've gone better for me each episode, so I think probably the third one.
We have very similar thoughts on the show, if you couldn't tell. So his saying his thoughts here is like a recap of my thoughts from last week. We both thought they got better as they went. And that continued into episode 4, which we both think is the best one yet. Just like last time, I, while watching, wanted to make sure I was watching as much as possible, but then we would pause it, and if I had a note to take, I would take a note.
I did not take notes.
But I thought, because I was pretty picky about the sets and the special effects from the first 3, I thought overall this one looked the best. Even the very opening, which wasn't very long. I don't know if they made that set or if that's a place that already exists. I thought it was the best looking set we've seen, even though it was only there for a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'm liking this. What were we going to say?
Yeah, can I say something about the visual effects? I liked that Saidin is the guy one, right? Of the one power.
I think so.
Whichever the guy one is. I liked how that appeared like black as opposed to the
kind of white.
The women who have the white. I personally am not in love with the fact that we even see the magic at all, but if we're going to see it, I kind of like seeing that one side is tainted, and I like that they really clarify that one side is tainted. I didn't feel like that was really clear in the first 3 episodes. It's kind of just like, the dragon can be anybody. And it's like, meh. Can it, though?
Yeah, I want to add with the magic that the way I think I would have liked the magic to have looked is... I would have liked it if you couldn't see it, really. You just saw the effects. Hold on, is there a delivery? I'll wait till the delivery's gone. I would have liked if the magic, you couldn't see it until later when certain characters are learning how to use magic, and then you see it there. And I think you could do a really cool thing where, for example, if there's a character learning how to use the magic, most of the time the viewer doesn't see it, but if you have the angle of the camera where the person learning... You have the camera like behind them, and as the camera pans around and they start to learn how to see it, then you kind of see how it works. But in the meantime, it's sort of a mystery and you just see the effects of it.
I think, too, like, it makes sense in the first episode when Moraine throws a fireball. It's like you would see fire, you know, that doesn't bother me. But I guess I thought, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but the scene with Logan being imprisoned... I just felt like you wouldn't see... There's not like a force field around him, you know? So I didn't love it, but I also get that just, you know, 4 people staring at each other would have been like a really odd thing, which is fun to think about. That's what the actors are doing in that scene, is they're just like
staring intensely.
So I get why they have it. I just don't love it.
Going back to the beginning of the episode, I love the actor playing Logan.
Yeah,
I
I
love
like him
basically everything about him. I thought his acting was great. I like his voice. I like his accent. I like his delivery. I like the scene where he's crying. I just like this guy overall. The one thing about the opening scene of this episode, I actually really liked the opening scene of this one, but if I had to complain about anything, and this is kind of my only complaint for this episode really, is it was a little heavy-handed with its delivery of him talking about being the dragon reborn, and just he had a little bit of an exposition-heavy monologue, and I said that in my thoughts for episodes 1 through 3 that sometimes they're a little heavy-handed. I think this episode was the worst with its heavy-handedness, which we'll get to. There was one thing in particular that we both were like, what the heck? We paused it like, come on. But overall, we really liked this episode. I wrote, my next note was, the false dragon is awesome. Or at least we think he's false. They think he's false. Anyway, false dragon is awesome. Can the show be about him? I like grown-ups more because I know that it annoyed some people that I found Rand really obnoxious and moody, but I gotta say, this episode was probably the best one because it was the one with him in it the least amount. An example of a little bit of a heavy-handed line was when the Aes Sedai says, "That's Moraine for you, selfless to a fault." I was like, that's a little cheesy, but, you know, okay, I guess. I mean, that's not the particular, neither of us liked that line, but that's not the part. I think we should just jump to the part that neither of us liked. The part that neither of us liked was how much emphasis they put on Axe with Perrin.
Yeah, this line is like, I mean, they're talking about violence, and then she's like, basically, have you ever done anything you regret with a sword, a bow, an axe?
And she just like especially looks at him.
And I'm like, and then she says it again. She says something like,
right after something
like, you regret that axe, or I don't know. She says something, and it's like,
is your life really better once you picked up that axe?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, we get it.
Well, so the first part annoyed me because, again, it was like an axe, and like how would she know that? But then, secondly, I was like, okay, I'll give you like one on the nose thing, but then that she says it again, I'm like, why do you know it's an axe? There's no way.
I mean, Egwene does kind of look at Perrin, but
I mean, goodness gracious, but like, yeah, was really annoying.
They haven't apparently hit hard enough that he is hesitant to pick the axe up after, accidentally murdering his wife with one. So I have been very picky with the sets, but I really liked so many of the details in episode 4, including the wagons. It's a silly thing to point out. Great. I really liked the wagons. I liked how much it genuinely looked like actual paintbrush strokes on the doors of the wagons and things like that, how colorful they were. And this is a very silly thing to praise, but I'm picky about small things, so I'm going to praise little things too. I love all of the different hairstyles from all the different actors and actresses across the board, no matter where they're from. I think they're trying to make certain groups more like they have their own look, but within the Aes Sedai, of course, because they're supposed to come from all over, I really like that they're embracing all these different hairstyles. Again, I know that's such a silly thing, but I just think it makes the world feel bigger.
I do find it funny. So in episode 3, the barmaid, what's her name? Dana? Something like that. She's like, you boys aren't from around here, are ya? And she like knows they're like, sheep herders or whatever. And then in episode 4, the tinker guy's like says something about, you guys, we don't see many visitors from the Misty Mountains. Like, we're not from the Misty Mountains. We're from blah, blah, blah. Whitebridge, I think. And then he's like, oh, sure. I think that was episode 4 or episode 3. Either way, doesn't matter. How they all have similar accents and they look very different. Like, how would you know where an individual is from in this world? Maybe I'm wrong. just throwing that out there. How would you know that both Rand and, Egwene and Perrin and Matt are all from the Misty Mountains? I don't know.
Yeah, I think at one point they said something about their accents. I think when Tom is talking to them. Mm-hmm. This was in a previous episode, but just to bounce off of that, I think at one point they pointed out accents, and I was kind of like, maybe I'm just not good enough at hearing.
Maybe that's it.
I don't know that too many of them have accents that are all that different. Logan's accent.
Maybe it's because different. They seem simple. Like maybe there's like these people are out of their element. They're probably from the Misty Mountains. They're very naive. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe I answered my own question.
Egwene and Perrin are precious. I love their friendship. There's a line where Perrin is unsure whether he wants to keep going with the Tinkerers, and Egwene is such a good friend. They're such good friends to each other because Egwene tells him, if either of us are not comfortable, we stick together. We're not going to force each other to do something that we don't want to do. And I'm just like, yay.
Also sad and non-dancing Perrin was sad. Just like watching with his little blanket.
Perrin's so sweet. I love Perrin. But I love Egwene. Egwene kind of annoyed me in the books. I'm basically loving everyone except Rand. But Rand was fine in episode 4. I didn't dislike Rand in this episode. You thought he was a little too nice when he turns to Matt and he's like, Matt,
is there something you need to tell me?
I'm always here for you. You know that, right? Oh, I love... Okay, the actress playing Nynaeve, in my opinion, kills it at everything. She has so well embodied this character that I even wrote, she doesn't even look happy when she's eating. Like, when she's eating the food, she just looks pissed off, and I'm like, I love it. She just always looks suspicious of everybody and angry at everybody, but I still really love her. She's awesome. I mean, we'll get to more about how she's awesome.
That's true.
A little bit later, but yes, I really like how much she's just upset about everything. I continue to really like her relationship with Lan. Again, touching on a little bit the heavy-handedness, let us just get to see them interact when Lan, who, by the way, and you can mention this too, he's a little chattier.
Yeah, he's like way more smiley and happy with the other warders. I was like, I don't remember him being like...
Yeah, in the books, I don't think he's that...
Mr. Stoneface, all the time, yeah.
But I mean, it's okay. I like this version of Lan. But either way, I like the way that their relationship has been developing just in their dialogue with one another. But I don't like that when he's practicing with the other warder, and then the warder's like, interesting company you're keeping, kind of a vibe. And I'm like, can you just let us see their relationship unfold? I don't need you to be like, in case you haven't noticed, there might be some sparks. I know that's not something everybody's going to be frustrated with, but it's just these little things where I want a tad more subtlety at times. But I'm curious if all of you feel that way as well. Maybe it's just because we've read the books that it doesn't feel subtle to us.
I mean, the Axe one doesn't make sense on any level.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Okay, coming back around to Matt. I know this seems very jumbled and all over the place, but it's because I take notes as we go.
Yeah.
Matt with the little girl was so sweet, and I know it's different, but I do like this change in Matt's character with his little sisters. I mentioned that in the previous video I did. I really like the Matt we're getting in the show, and that moment I thought was, as far as showing his character, was not too heavy-handed. The little girl with her doll, where she's like, I want the doll to see the world. And then when the doll gets left behind, I'm like, her doll doesn't even get to keep going. Sorry for yelling. But I did turn to him immediately, and I'm like, that little girl's gonna die. It was just such a...
And then I was like, I'm not watching this show anymore.
It's just such a TV thing to throw in, like the cute little girl. So, I mean, I knew she was going to. It was still sad, though.
It was sad.
And when you don't know for a second if Matt's the one that killed them, and the way that scene was shot, that was great.
Yes.
When I was like, he especially was like, no!
He was like, don't you dare.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to watch this show anymore. He would have, but we were very upset for the family. And
I thought the merger all in that scene looked really good, too. I mean, mostly because you couldn't see it, but, I thought it looked good.
Yes.
Also, Tom's fighting skills. Liking the Tom fighting skills.
We do eventually get Tom talking about his nephew, which I'm glad that they had that in there. Still don't think Tom is like he is in the books. I don't mind. I think he's still basically a rough and gruff kind of rock star guy. And I did like
He reminds me of, like, old man Bruce Wayne, you know, more than, like, Tom
Marilyn,
from the books.
yeah.
But, you know.
I liked his line about men who know the past are dangerous. That's not exactly how he worded it, but I liked that line. Another small little thing, but I wanted to compliment this actress who's not a main character, but the actress, the Tinkerer, when she's talking about her daughter. I was really moved by that scene, and she just seemed so genuine. Like, it was a really, really good tearful performance. You know, I thought she executed that scene very well.
So, question for you. After those first 3 episodes, especially the first episode, which moved very quickly, what did you think of this episode? 'Cause I thought this episode was great, but I felt like we pumped the brakes a lot. I mean, Perrin and Egwene didn't really do anything. I mean, they just got kind of character moments with the Tinkers.
Which I love character
Matt
moments.
and Rand
We don't
didn't
see a
really
lot of...
do anything. They just went to that farmhouse, whatever. Most of the action was with Logan.
Others.
But I guess for me, taking that much time with Logan, they're going to have to cut a lot of stuff, which I'm okay, I guess, with it. But I like that episode a lot. I just feel like they really slowed down on that episode.
Yeah, so this kind of gets into almost not predictions, but thoughts as to moving forward, because we're already halfway through the season, which is
it's
a
crazy.
lot to think about. I don't know if the concept of the Eye of the World is even going to be touched on, but even though I agree that this episode was a little bit, we pulled back, we didn't move so fast, and we got more character moments, which I always love. I still feel like everything with Logan comes later in the series. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he's introduced early enough on in the books, but I think that they've already gentled him, and I think that
and I think they introduced the idea of gentling organically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that,
yes.
You know, we can't even get this guy to Tarval, and he's
so strong and powerful.
Too dangerous, yeah.
So even though other things paused, I think we brought something from later in, and then almost propelled that whole plot line a certain amount of time it takes to get to where we go. Like, we did it in this one episode, and I was fine with that. But this gets into the best parts of the episode, which I think the fighting in this episode was the best yet. I almost retroactively am even more frustrated at episode 1 because I'm like, this is what it could have looked like, because it looked so good. And I
think it helped that you didn't have a Trollocs running around.
Yes. Yeah. I also know a lot of people were saying that they put a lot into the building of the sets, and I think that because we didn't have a lot of really extravagant sets here, it made, like you said, we don't have to worry about Trollocs as well, but it made everything so much more realistic. Mm-hmm. The fighting, I also really liked that we didn't see all of the magic, kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of the video. With some of the other Aes Sedai, when they would use their magic, you would see an explosion, essentially, in different directions. The magic just looked really cool, and you didn't have a super beautiful, amazing set behind you. It was kind of a not even all that pretty woodsy area, and it looked amazing. It looked so good. It was almost, for me, the difference between... Sorry, I have to pull from his shirt here. But something like some of the Marvel movies where the CGI gets really over the top. And I mean, of course...
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
They have great CGI and everything. But comparing that to something like Logan, which is a great movie, and it's much grittier, that's more of my look, I think. And of course, you're going to get a little more magic here than in something like that. But that comparison, for those of you that have seen those... I prefer that so much more. So I thought the magic looked better. I thought the fight scene was really good, although I think the one warder's axes looked really fake, because I'm like, those don't look sharp at all. But that's neither here nor there. But I thought that scene looked amazing. I was sad when the Aes Sedai died. The one and her warder was sad. It made me sad. And then... when they're all bleeding out, I was like, come on, Nynaeve, get angry already, because
she had to.
I was waiting. I kept waiting because it shows her looking around at all the violence, and I was like, come on, when are you going to do something? I was waiting. And I liked that. I think it was a great moment for people who haven't read the books, but then if you have, I feel like there is an extra amount of anticipation for like, come on, I know Nynaeve's gonna finally do this.
I thought it was an emotional scene. I was like, oh, I liked it. Anyways, that kind of brings us to a change-ish. Mm-hmm. So I liked the change. I liked how Logan kind of repeated, what Moraine had told him about the dragon, like shining like the sun or something. Like he like sees Nynaeve. So power difference there. I mean, it looks like they're setting up Nynaeve to be more powerful than Logan if he's like looking at her like amazed. Yeah. Which, I mean, that's definitely different from the books. But I'm on board. I think like, generally, I'm going to say generally because I don't remember perfectly, but I think generally in the books, like, the male channelers are just stronger than the women. Now, I know there are, like, variations, like, the women tend to be better, like, the healing or, wind stuff, or, like, there's, like, different, and then the men are better at other things. But generally, it seems like the men are stronger. So I kind of like that they kind of mix that up and, Logan can be blown away by Nynaeve's power.
And it seems to be implied that Egwene is even stronger.
Right.
Because when Lan was like, is he stronger than Egwene? And Moraine's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I do think I would like Nynaeve to still be stronger than Egwene. Because I think.
She has less control.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, Nynaeve is stronger. But, who knows? Does it?
So
I feel like, actually.
Okay, so I do want to say, moving forward with the video from here, if you don't want to hear any spoilers from the books at all, don't keep watching. If you don't care, you can join us. We're going to be talking about predictions that we have based off of what we've seen so far and what we think they're going to change and what they're maybe going to keep the same. So if you don't want to see any of that, you can hop off. But for those that don't care, or if you have read and you want to stick with us here, if you do want to write predictions, feel free to write them, but just write spoiler predictions in your comment and then enter. You all know how it goes. So we have a little bit of a disagreement as to where we think a certain power dynamic is going to happen. We know in the books the Dragon Reborn is Rand. And I think given the history of the fantasy genre, all fingers are pointing to Rand. And because the show, even though it is pulling from an older book series, I think we have seen enough changes from the books. And they seem to really be putting a lot of strength in the women of the show, that I still think the Dragon Reborn is technically Rand. I just don't know, based off of kind of what we were talking about before, how Nynaeve it would seem more powerful than Logan. Egwene, it seems, is more powerful. Because we're already seeing that change, and we're seeing a lot of other changes, I think it's going to be more so a factor of all 5 of the Edmonds Field folk are necessary to defeat the Dark One. I think Rand is like a key component, but I don't think it's going to be that Rand is infinitely stronger than the others, if that makes sense. I think it's going to be more of a... What I like about this theory is I think we're going to see these characters butting heads eventually, and we're going to see them all come into their own, but they're going to have to come together in the end, which might be something, depending on where the show takes things, that you almost don't want them to come together because you're going to like some characters and dislike some characters. But
so I don't think you're wrong, because I mean, like, well, no, I mean, like, I think in the books, like, the prophecies are clear. Matt has to be at the last battle. Perrin has to be at the last battle. Like, they're big pieces, but I think where we differ is Rand still has to be the biggest piece. I mean, I
don't think that his piece is going to be that much bigger, where he thinks...
Well, and I never said he has to be infinitely more powerful.
That's fair, yeah.
But he has to be significantly more powerful than the other channelers. But, I mean, Perrin and Matt are not channelers. So, they're abilities are different, and you know, I like them as well. But I just think if Brand being the Dragon Reborn is not significantly more powerful than
It's
other
too different.
channelers, then what is the Dragon Reborn? It just doesn't make sense to me.
I think that the difference is going to come in that he's the one that can purify the form of magic that men pull from. I think that's where he is going to be more. And I'm not saying I think for sure, like, absolutely this is the route they're going down. I'm only saying this because I think that the show is trying to be a show of modern times. I mean, they've changed a lot of things, I think, to be a little bit more progressive, we'll say. So just in seeing some of the changes, I'm wondering if these are the ways in which they're going to go about some other aspects. That's
Could
just,
be.
I think that, I mean, I guess I'll just leave it at that. I think they're trying to be inspired by Robert Jordan's works. They're adapting it, but they're adapting it to kind of modern audiences. And I could be totally wrong. I could be absolutely in the wrong about this. They just have changed so much that I'm kind of like, well.
So a more general prediction, and I think I am right, but we'll find out. Or I guess a more specific prediction. I think this season will end with... obviously, I don't think it's going to end with the Eye of the World events. It might end sort of Great Hunty, but I think it will end with Rand separating to go to the Stone of Tyr. Because I think we need to have Rand go camping.
That's what we call book 3. Rand
Yeah, and
goes
not...
camping.
Because, I mean, they're cutting so much. I don't... Okay, I guess I'll put it this way. I don't see him ending up at the Stone of Tyr at the end of the show. There's only 4 episodes left, but I could see him thinking, you know, maybe I'm this person, and then I'm gonna break from the group, and then that's where we'll find him next season, going to Tyr.
We'll find out.
I'm feeling pretty good about that, because if it's not, and we don't get that for, I don't know, it's just there's a lot to cover.
There's a lot. So
a lot to cover.
Halfway through the season, which is weird to say because it feels like we've barely gotten in. But I have really high hopes after this episode. My only concerns are that they're going to feel like they need to get to certain things sooner. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they might rush certain moments. And then another concern is that I think with the first episode, we saw I know some people disagree, but I personally don't think it looked particularly amazing. And I think they're going to want to really up the end. Of course, right? You push to the ending. I don't think the ending is going to just be like great character moments. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff go down. And I'm afraid a lot of the stuff that's going to go down is very magical based. And I'm afraid the last episode of the season's not going to look maybe as...
Or they'll want it to look really good.
I hope that...
Yeah.
I hope... Yeah. I mean, episode 4 looked so much better to me in almost every way. And I really liked this episode. I'm so excited for the potential that we have now after seeing that. Because I thought the first 3, each was getting better, but I still wasn't sure if this show could be in it for the long run. And then episode 4 has got me like, okay, this could be the next fantasy show that we all are really into. But we'll see. I mean, it's strange. This is going to sound strange, but it's strange for me to think, it's bizarre to think for me that episode 4 exists in the same season as episode 1. Maybe some of you are like, episode 1 wasn't that bad. Stop.
I think it's the Trollocs. I think that's the difference.
Yeah. Anyway, we'd love to know your thoughts. Please be respectful.
I can't take criticism.
Be respectful to Sean. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we'll see you all next week. Bye.